All right, so what were we looking at? We were looking at adhikaritvam, right? What's that? That is like being, who's the person who is prepared, if you like, to take this knowledge? And we talked about the fact that, you know, you prepare as you're going, as you're doing Shravanam. Pujya Swamiji definitely did not make any comments that, you know, one had to be an adhikari like Arjuna. I should think instead of the 100 odd people who we had signed up for the last 3-year, not the one that's going now, but the one before that, 3-year course from all over the world. We don't know who we would have got if Pujya Swamiji only accepted, you know, the Uttama Adhikari, that is people like Arjuna and Shvetuketu. So, no, luckily for us, our teachers, all our gurus take us in, and they encourage us and they support us in gaining all of these so-called qualifications along the way. So we're very lucky. So we had looked at, let's see if we can list them all. A little wake-up quiz at the beginning of the class. Let's see if we can list what we've looked at and see if we not only list them, let's see if we can do it in order. Oh, now that's really hard. Now you're asking way too much, Janani. Swaminiji never does that. Okay, Viveka. Vairagya.
Sama. Or Dana.
What's the next? The Shat Sampat. Shat Sampat. Yeah, good. So the 6-pack. Not the 6-pack of all the muscles. See, I remember now. Not the 6-pack of all the muscles down one's middle here. The 6-fold disciplines. Okay, what have we got? Mumukshutvam is the very last one. So what about our 6-pack? Shama, Dhamma, Uparama, yep, or Uparati, same thing. Titiksha, Shraddha. Oh, you guys are doing great. Samadhana, good, all right. And we were looking at Mumukshutvam. And then, so that's what we were looking at. You guys are good. You take good notes. Oh, everything's upside down the wrong way around today. Let's see. Okay, so mumukshutvam. So mumukshutvam, the desire for moksha. And this, we're just a little bit of grammar, just can't resist, okay? So this is mumukshu, jignasu, bubukshu. We've talked about this before. There's one little pratyaya. It looks up. You know this one. There's one little pratyaya called sun. And you're like, sun? That doesn't sound anything like mumukshu, bubukshu, jignasu. It's actually just the sakara comes. And so that little pratyaya does a couple of things. One, it puts an S at the end of the dhatu, the verbal root. And the other thing it does is what's called dvitvam, meaning it makes the dhatu, the verbal root, double. So if we had the verb, let's say for instance, we'll do this in this will be funny. This will be fun. We'll do this with an English word, okay? To do, okay? Which the dhatu in Sanskrit is kra. And Swaminiji brought this one up the other day. But if we were going to add sun to do in English, we would end up with dudushu, okay? Something like this, because you double the verbal base. Okay, so the verbal base of do is do. Okay, so dudushu, okay? Actually, it might become dudoshu, or something like that. Actually, it would be dodoshu if we pronounced our O's like in Sanskrit. But dudushu, just think of it like that, okay? So that's kind of what happens with it. So it's a fun, somebody's saying after lunch. I'm not sure what the after lunch piece is. Okay. Awake after lunch. Yes, okay. Yes, someone here not sitting too far away had a cup of tea, I have to admit. All right. So mamukshu, babukshu, this is this little pratyaya called sun. So if you see this doubling with a shu on the end, the word, the letters shu or su or something like this, and you've got two dhatus, it looks like it could be two of the same dhatu, you can take a good guess that you might be looking at desire to do something. And chikishu is the one who, the one who decides to, who wants to do, the doer, the one who's desiring to do something, okay? And there's some rules about how that doubling takes place, so that's why that chik came in for kr instead. You don't end up with kr shu, you end up with chikishu, okay? So there's some rules around it, but you can now look at, you'll be able to spot these words all over the place, okay? So hopefully that's just a little bit of fun for an aside thing, okay? So mumukshutvam, not very straightforward. All of us are mumukshus, right? Yes, of course we are. We all have a desire to be free. Free from what? Free from all what we've just looked at, all the whining, complaining, the grumbling, the mumbling. We don't want to be free from viveka and vairagya. We'd like to have those, thank you, in double dose, at least double dose, if not triple dose, quadruple dose. So, but we want to be free from everything that we don't want. What is that we want to be free from most of all? From having all these desires for things to be different. That's what we want to be free from. And so oftentimes though, it's not, like I said, not quite so straightforward. And often what you see, especially in a course like this, is the soda can effect. And what's that mean? You open the lid and everything's just so excited. Oh yes, 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 yes. Great, 1 month course. Yes, let's go. And what did I say to you all at the beginning of class? Congratulations. It's the 10th today of March. We have 9 more days to go, and for some people you're probably just saying, oh yeah, how many more days can I keep this up? How many more days is the body going to keep going through this? How much longer can I go? For some people, I don't know if James isn't here yet, how can I, how much longer can I go with just doing this napping in between classes and then going to work and then another nap and then, another class and then another nap and then going to work and never really having a full night's sleep? So there's this real effervescence at first. Yes, 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 the hair is on fire. And then what happens? What happens is one starts feeling comfortable. One goes to enough classes, and that burning discomfort that had brought one to the pursuit in the first place gets kind of quelled a little bit, because you sit and you listen to Swamini Ji, and she's telling you, you're the whole, you're everything, it's okay, there's nothing here but you. This is, you're limitless, everything is fine. And you're listening to this day in, day out. And so we get this kind of like, oh yeah, that's what I am. Even if, it's not assimilated, there's that, oh yes, yes, that's okay. And so there's that kind of complacency comes in. And then what happens is, so there's that piece of it, and it's like, okay, I know now, I know what's going on, it's okay, everything's okay, I can go out about my daily work. And so one can either does that, or one goes off to do the daily business, and what happens? Finds oneself all caught up in samsara again, all really tied up in it. Well, it's not working, nothing's happening to me, so therefore this is a waste of time. I'm not going to waste the next month going to class after class after class. And so this is like the soda can effect. That enthusiasm, that desire to keep on coming and studying goes away and just kind of goes and just flattens out, And if you used to do like we did as children, I think, I'm thinking that a parent figure probably put us up to this to stop us from drinking these fizzy drinks when we were younger. But you take Coca-Cola, right, and you open the bottle, you put it in a cup. This is especially true when all the baby teeth are falling out, And then you either drop a penny, a dirty penny, or you drop a tooth that's fallen out in the soda pop. You go away, you go to sleep, and you wake up the next morning, and we won't talk about what one finds in the cup just yet, but all the bubbles are gone, just completely flat. And what we could say is, oh, well, that's the nice placid mind, because they've absorbed the Vedanta, they've absorbed the teaching. But that's not the example. The example is that eagerness for the learning, it somehow gets subjugated, put to the back a little bit. What happened to the teeth? The teeth, it was not good. After one day, they weren't looking so good. After about 3 or 4 days, there was very little left of that tooth. So it put. I can say that in the family, nobody drinks soda pop. Okay. Seemed to be a network problem. I guess there's no bad connection. Try and watch online stream the other day in the cafe. Oh, Katrin, I'm sorry you're having difficulties. Sometimes it is easier on the live stream. And yes, I know that this Adobe Classroom does take up a lot of bandwidth. So that could be why there are problems, okay? So let us know, though, if you continue to have problems. And we'll see what we can work out, But I suspect that you'll get a better internet connection sometime soon, okay? That's usually how it happens. When we really want it, it comes through, okay? Especially when it's the teaching. So this mumukshutvam then is something to be nurtured. We have to nurture this. We can't just get complacent about it, like yes, I'm doing this. We have to encourage it a little bit. And what you will find is the more shravanam you do, the more your shraddha grows, because you start recognizing the differences. And it's very subtle, but if you do a little inventory at the end of the month and you look at the amount of time between when the last emotional upheaval was and the strength of that upheaval and how quick the recovery time is, you will start to see that the bumps are less. They're not quite so much. And this is what they used to tell us in Anakati, to encourage us and to give us something to just look at. And it's not that we're trying to change behavior. You will just notice that as the knowledge is assimilated, you will notice a lessening in the ability of these samsaric things to catch hold of you. Don't expect this to go away overnight. Don't expect it to go away in a month, okay? Just notice the subtle changes, though. You will notice, oh, yeah, the response to that was different. Because as Swamini Ji has said to us all more than once, this is a process. It's not, one is the journey. There's nowhere to go. One is the journey, okay? It's not that one has to be somewhere, because one already is the very truth of oneself. So for right now, our mumukshu, all our actions have to be guided by our desire. And so our desire, the desire we have to nurture here is the desire for that freedom from all of this desiring things other than to know the truth of myself. And over time, that is going to change into a jnanasatvam, right? Into the wanting to know. Why will it change into wanting to know? I thought I just wanted to be free from everything. So why would it change? Why should I suddenly want to change from being, from being free of all these desires into knowing? Why should that happen? No, that desire to be free is still there. One recognizes, having done one's, having viveka, one recognizes that in order to have what it is that one wants to be free of all of these desires, that it is knowledge that we need to have, that this is not about gaining something, as we just said. There's nothing to gain. One already is the truth of oneself. So there's nothing different to come. But wait a minute, you just said I was going to be free from all this gripping, I'm not going to get so caught up in these samsaric moments. And why would I sit here if nothing's going to change? I came here because I wanted something to change. Exactly. You came here because you wanted something to change. You understood that there was nothing really to change. except for cognitively. Your identification, and this is where one is going to be able to walk the I from being connected, thinking itself to be the mind, the body, and all the senses, and walk it over to its true and rightful place, which is what is actually upholding this body-mind-sense complex. And one of the very last thing that Puja Swamiji says in all the, you would say in all the valedictory ceremonies at the end of the courses, how do you know that, Janani? Because I listen to a few of them, because they're good things to listen to once in a while. So I can't say to all of them, but to the ones that I listen to, is never judge yourself by what is obtaining in the mind, which is, of course, much easier said than done. Never judge yourself by what is obtaining in the mind. What does that mean? Never judge yourself by the thought like, oh, you just did that again? Oh my goodness. Or, oh, this body is just so lethargic today, it's not going to move, it's not, you know, it's not this body. One's thinking, oh, I'm just so, I just don't feel, you know, this kind of thing. So never judge yourself by what is obtaining in the mind, okay? So that's a very nice piece. So, okay, good. It's good we're all here. Good we're all carrying on with this. So that was the adhikaratvam. And then which verse were we looking at? Lokesmin dvivida, is that right? Dvivida nishta? Okay, so when we talked about the fact that there are no two paths, right? There's only two lifestyles. So what? Everybody's telling me which verse 3. Verse 3, chapter 2, chapter 3. It's okay. Lokesmin, that'll do, okay? It's actually chapter 3, verse 3. Very good. Okay, so this path, we often hear that there is more than one path, okay? So that one can take. And so I think Swamini talked about this actually on Tuesday, you know, the path of bhakti, the karma yoga path, and the, you know, the path for sannyas, or sannyas somehow gets tied up with the intellectual path, the path of jnanam, you know, the path of knowledge. There's, you know, paths, you have a choice, right? I can take this path or that path. Here in Eugene, we have many places where you can go up, little trails where you can go up, and you have a choice of which path to take. You can take, there's one mountain here called Pisgah, no, the other one that I'm thinking of, Spencer. Yeah, Spencer Butte. And there's one path that you can take up, and it's the easy path, meaning that it takes a winding way up through the trees. And then there's another path that you can take up, and it's the more challenging path, and it goes up, and it goes up much steeper. And when you get to the top of this mountain, it's only 2,000 feet, but it's not 2,200 feet or something, not very high, but anyway. When you get to the top of this hill, I think they've changed it now, but it used to be that it was just rocks and there was no path anywhere. And so you would get up the top, you would enjoy, you have a 360-degree view of Eugene, which, if for all of you who know this area, is very beautiful. You see a lake in one direction, you see some mountains called the Three Sisters, and you see a lot of trees, you know, big evergreen forests. And it's very, very pretty, especially on a non-rainy day, and beautiful. So you're up there, you enjoy all the views, and now it's time to come down, and there's no path. You don't know which path it was that you came, you came up from, if you haven't paid any attention. And there are, up the top, there are many little deer trails, so you never know which one it is. And when you first move to the area, you can even end up coming down on completely the wrong side of the mountain and looking around thinking, oh my gosh, this parking lot doesn't look like anything like where I left my car or bicycle or however it was that you got up there. So is this the case, and this example is going to come back in a minute, there's a reason for this example. Is this the case with how to gain this moksha? Can we choose how we're going to get this moksha? And of course the answer is no, we can't choose, because we have to, one has to gain knowledge. It's not about doing anything, one has to gain knowledge. And so some people, some people will say, there's many paths though, and they all go to one place, just like the mountain you just talked about. And as Pujya Swamiji would say, yes, there may be many paths, especially going to the temple, but to get into the temple, there's one door. And whether you like it or not, knowledge is that door, okay? So it doesn't matter, there's no more than one path. And so we could, we can take a choice, we can choose whether we're going to carry on down the samsara path or take the path going towards moksha. That we can choose, okay? So not that it's a choiceless choice really, to be honest with you, but let's pretend we can choose. And of course, what does the samsara path look like? Oh, just full of little stalls, full of little baubles. There's like all sorts of fairs and festivals and all sorts of things going on. And what does the path, which has got the sign saying to moksha going on it? It's a rather plain road. It's kind of overgrown. Why is it overgrown? Not many people walk down there. So it's kind of overgrown. And we just go on and we take a walk down this road. Maybe a few footprints that we can follow, but nothing much is going there. So these two paths we can choose from. But when it comes to moksha, there are no two paths. You don't see two, it's not that the moksha road goes off and there's a choice. Okay, this road you can take for here, and this moksha, this way to moksha, or this way to moksha. Moksha 1, moksha 2. Doesn't happen like that. But then what about this karma yoga and sannyasa? Those are two different lifestyles. There's not two different ways. Both of them involve knowledge. And as we're going to see later on, in fact, there is no really becoming or taking the path of sannyas without first having being accomplished in karma yoga. There's no, it doesn't work out. So Vivida Nishta, the two committed lifestyles. So we have, we'll look at the sannyas first, the one that's least applicable for all of us in our karma yoga lifestyles. So there are 3 types of sannyas, right? So there's the Vidvat sannyas for the person who's already a jnani. So who is this person? This is someone who has outgrown all of the obligations that they have in life. They don't have any pressure to act, and they've gained the knowledge, that is, that they have studied. They've got nishta in the knowledge. They have a stability in the knowledge, and they got that in one of the other ashramas. What are the other ashramas? Brahmachari, Grahasta, Vanaprastha, that's right. Grahasta, yes, that's what most of us are, right? The Grahastas. So in that ashrama of Grahasta, so you can see right here that the knowledge can be gained in any of these other ashramas. One doesn't have to be a sannyas in order to gain the knowledge. So there are these kinds of sannyas. And having this having no pressure to act, that is something that is grown into. And what does that really look like, having no pressure to act? And this is, we're going to be, again, we'll look at this more in detail in one of the upcoming verses. But this is where one is not attached to the karma phala. And you can see there's a lot of quietening down of the raga dveshas in order to not have the pressure to act. it for any reason. And we talked yesterday about the Vak tapas and that pressure in the elevator to actually say something to the person who's in there, who you've always talked to before, and now you're suddenly not saying anything. And what are they going to think of me if I don't say anything today? Or what does it look like? Does it look like I'm being rude? So all of this pressure, the sannyas has grown out of. But again, this takes a while. But this is the first kind of sannyas. And then there's the Vividisha sannyas, the one who has the desire, very strong desire, to know oneself as Brahman. And so what does it take to be this kind of sannyas? And we all look at, for all the grahastas, many grahastas will sit and say, oh yes, what a life. You just have to sit and, bhiksha comes and you just get to eat and you just have to, just kind of hang out really. And it's very nice. Everything's taken care of. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to please anybody. You just get to hang out by yourself. It all sounds very appealing until one tries to sit with oneself for a little while, especially if, there's a whole bunch of strong emotions coming up. What's the first line of defense for most people? Get busy with something, or let's go and see a movie, or let's nowadays it's pull out these not that one, but pull out these tablets. That's it, the tablets, and there's all sorts of games on there. I was amazed. I was in anyway, I was somewhere, let's just say I was somewhere, so we don't set out too many identifiers there. And I was somewhere and somebody had one of these tablet things, and I thought we were working on something, and I saw them busily doing stuff on this tablet, and I actually had a computer on my lap and was typing, writing up notes as we were going along. And I looked up and I asked something, and they said, oh, wait a minute, and I saw this kind of movement, which I know enough now, having an iPhone myself, I know this. You swipe right and it makes a different screen come up. And so I thought, well, that's weird, and I didn't say anything. Anyway, this went on 2 or 3 times, and then finally I just peeked over the top, and there was all these coloured little things that looked like sweets, little sweet, and they were all dropping down and doing things, and then little numbers will pop up, and it's called
Candy Crush.
Candy Crush. There we go, Candy Crush. I didn't ask any more. I just said, oh, what is that, a game? This person told me, yeah, look, they know it. Candy Crush. And since this time, I have to tell you this, I've seen this on so many, if you're in an airport's a great place to see these sorts of things. When you're in the airport, and if you just walk, you're winding your way through people to try and get, to the bathroom or something like that, then you see so many of these tablets with these little sweetie things, going down. So I guess I have to learn more about this game at some point, but Candy Crush. So anyway, sitting with oneself, what we do is we tend to distract we distract ourselves. And so the one who wants to know oneself stays with that discomfort, sits through that discomfort. But like I say, for most of us, the mind just pushes us into avoiding that uncomfortable place. So it's a very, it's not an easy place to be, and it really is something that is grown into. And the other piece about this sannyas, taking sannyas like this, is that one makes a commitment to be non-competitive. So what does that really look like? It means one drops all of those things that one is passionate, or grows out of all of those things one is passionate about. such as, well, yes, of course, we have to let go of our passions if we're going to be, just being someone who's, living in the knowledge. We have to yes, you're calm. You don't have passions, and you don't act them. You think about the things where we have people in the world who are, for instance, really into religious dialogue. There's a passion that people can get really caught up in, and you can get really pulled away by this. Okay, it's a meaningful cause. Not to say that one stops doing that, but it's not one's driving force, and it's not one's priority in life. Another one is environmental concerns. This is a huge one, especially for us all here in Eugene. We get quite hot under the collar here in Eugene about many things. I actually had the good fortune to be able to sit with the mayor of Eugene a couple of weeks ago and discuss some of these issues with her. And she was telling me that we've got 2 projects here in Eugene right now that are causing quite a stir. One of them is a mass transportation project in which they're building a special bus lane so that there can be an express bus that runs from one part of the city to another part of the city. And the controversy that has come up around this, mostly from the business owners on this particular one, she said is quite stunning. And to have heard some of what she's had thrown at her because of the decision to go ahead with this is quite stunning. Another one is that they're doing some beautification on a road, actually in the neighborhood that many of us here live in, and on this big street, and they're going to narrow the street down from 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction, to I think 1 lane in each direction, and make bike lanes and things like this, and make it more people friendly and bicycle friendly. And she said that the controversy around that has been extremely high. She said that they've had more people turn out for the monthly council meetings regarding that issue. And this is just in one small part of the town, and people from other parts of the town apparently come in and to weigh in on this. They've had more people turn out about that one issue than in many other issues around here. So we get, a bee in our bonnet, and we want to, spearhead movements and do things like this. The sannyasas, okay, they may have some feelings about it, and there may be, thoughts there, and this may have been something, but they've grown out of needing to be the one who's taking that on. Does that mean they don't participate? No, it doesn't mean that they don't participate again. It just means that they've grown from being the one who is, doing any leading on that. If they're asked to speak about something, then depending on what it is, they have the choice to do that or not. So this is this non-competitor on a social level. And then political level, of course, we don't see many sannyasas running for government. Although we won't go there with the ones who are a little different, but we don't see that. And economical too. We don't see sannyasas competing for jobs. So, we can think, going for dollars, etc., but we don't see them even competing for jobs. The jobs are left for those who are still have responsibilities and duties with regard as family and raising children, partners, spouses. So there's none of that fighting for funds in that way. They also have to take a vow of ahimsa, which ties into the non-competition. But that vow of ahimsa goes further than that non-competition. It moves into all living beings. So traditionally in India, for instance, the sannyasas between July and August, usually going into September, that period there when the monsoon came, they would just plop themselves down, park themselves in one area and not move around because of this vow of ahimsa. what has it got to do with monsoon and vow of ahimsa? Because all the little wriggling creatures come out during that time, and they did not want to be responsible for stepping on even a worm or a snake or any of these little creatures or bugs that would come out during the rains. And of course there were a lot more of them, and it's much harder to see them in the mud and slush than it is, on a dry ground. So this vow of ahimsa is taken very seriously. There's a lovely story about Puja Swamiji. He lived in, many, many years ago, he lived in a little grass hut on the banks of Ganga up in Rishikesh. And this was before Rishikesh was all built up. And so he had his little grass hut, and in there he had his bathroom, with his bucket, which he would get the water from the Ganga, and he had his bucket, and there was like a little drainage piece that ran off and that would go outside of the hut. And he came out, running out one day with a piece of newspaper covered in ants. And he went over to a little grassy hillock and shook it out, and apparently said to the people who were there, even back in those days there were people around Puja Swamiji, and he apparently shook it out, and he said, I feel so, I just feel so relieved. I think I've managed to get every ant out of the bathroom before I start pouring water and drowning the ants today, And I can understand this, living in any of you who are from India, lived in India, it's an issue. Being able to avoid drowning an ant while one is taking a bath, even nowadays, living in the ashram, it's quite something. Not to mention the geckos and sometimes a scorpion or etc. Would come wandering in. Mind you, we would usually move the scorpions out before taking a bath. Namaste, James. So yes, the Jains definitely, they walk bare feet, and that's why they do it, because they don't want to crush anything. So it's a very serious vow, this ahimsa vow. And that's why also why we don't eat mushrooms, right? Because they're considered as something that eats off of, other creatures, So it's not a, people, one of the arguments for vegetarians, the meat eaters will say, well, the plants, they have consciousness, so what's the difference? You say yourselves the plants have consciousness. So what's the difference between being a vegetarian or being a meat eater? And so, of course, the answer is, this is for all of you who don't know this is how to answer your vegetarian friends, non-vegetarian friends. And you just tell them that, we have to go for the least amount of himsa. So if one eats the plant, which was designed by Bhagavan, it does not run away from you. One says a prayer before eating, and one says a prayer when gathering one's food, but eating the plant, you're causing one level of pain in order to keep this body, mind, sense complex running. You eat the meat, the vegetarian animal that has eaten the plants, and already 2 layers at least of himsa have happened. So first of all, the animal has eaten the plant, and then so the plant's gone through that death process, and then the animal itself has had to go through the death process. So that's the argument that you can use with all your friends, but that's why we don't eat the mushrooms, because the mushrooms actually do live off of little critters. Puja Swamiji had lots of knowledge on this, and I apologize about not being able to pass that on, because I did not, that wasn't some of the information that settled in so well, but I'm sure if you Google it, you can find out about it. So ahimsa, very, very important. And so the other things, and yes, they do use a brush to sweep away the insects. And of course the brushes over there are all made out of long grass. And when you first get a new brush, you get so excited because your old brush is usually down to a few little strands of dried out grass. This is the brushes that we use inside. And it's just down to a few little strands of dried out grass. So you get your brand new grass brush, and it was just very gentle and it won't crush anything when you're sweeping. And of course, all the little seed things that didn't get shaken off, when you sweep, and there's more left on the floor than when you started sweeping, you know, for the first, and that goes on for about the first, depending on how much you brush the floor, you know, it can be 1 or 2 days or up to a week. And so after that, though, there's a wonderful time where the brush is working just perfectly before all the grass pieces start dropping out. And the other thing they use, of course, is the palm fronds. So they strip, you know, the coconut trees, and they strip off the green pieces. They wait for the leaves, the fronds to dry out. They strip off the green sides, and then they take their hardened piece in the middle, and they put those together and bind them up. In the ashram, we all used to make, we all used to make these brushes. No, let me take that back. We didn't used to make the brushes. The people there who worked there, they would make them. And if we were feeling brave enough and thought that our hands were hard enough not to get cut up doing this, we would take lessons in it. So yes, all the brushes and everything were designed over there not to hurt. So then another thing, one leads a life of study from morning till night. That's not something that many of us are used to doing. So the sannyas is constantly studying, constantly with the books. Oh yes, I do that, no problem. I'm constantly studying the newspaper, the novels, you know, the television. We're all information, especially in this day of information technology, right? That's what they call it, IT. Information technology. We're all great information gatherers. But what is the sannyas studying? The sannyas is studying the shastra, studying the texts, looking into, contemplating on the words in the text, looking at, listening to classes over and over again. So being able to sit and do this intense study and this intense contemplation, it's something again that's grown into. And this is your jnanasatvam growing, this is your going from that mumukshutvam, that desire for freedom, into that wanting to know. And so you can see it all just kind of funnels into each other. So it's okay, we have lifetimes to do this. Once you're on this path, even if you don't get moksha this time around, Bhagavan Krishna guarantees that you will be born into a lifestyle next time where you will have a great leg up in this, and you will get this the next life round. So it's not that anything is wasted. Yes, they say pick up where you left off or even further along the path. So it's a very nice thing. So that's our second kind of sannyas, right? What was that one called? Vividisha, good. And then the last one, apat sannyas. Does you all remember what this one is? This is what Shankaracharya took, first of all. Vidvat is the first one, where one already knows. And then Vividisha is the second one. And then the last one, sampat, and this, apat, not sampat, apat is the one that Shankaracharya took. Who remembers how did Shankaracharya first become a sannyas? Anybody remember the story?
It's a crocodile.
Yep. That's it. So what did he say? He said to his mother, please let me take sannyas now, because if I take sannyas, then the crocodile will let go. And they promised me. So when one is faced, in a near-death experience and thinks there's a good possibility of dying, one takes sannyas. And this is one that's reserved for many, emergency. That's right. So one can take this as a last-ditch effort, because one wants to get this birth into, a better birth, more in alignment with seeking the pursuit of moksha next time around. So this was the one that Shankaracharya. Of course, he was then initiated later on, by his guru. He was initiated properly, but this was the first one. And Swamini loves to joke about this one. She'll say that there was some sannyasis taking a bath a little bit upriver from where all this happened. And so when the crocodile let go of Shankaracharya, it just happened that an orange piece of cloth was floating right by him at that time. So he grabbed hold of that, got out of the river, wrapped that around him, and said, "Cheerio, Mom, I'm off now." And off he went. So Apat Nirmala. Apat sannyas, that's the third one. Okay? So that's the third kind of sannyas. So these are the types of sannyas, okay? Why are we talking about sannyas? One of the two lifestyles. Okay, good. Good. So, nice to ask easy questions that we can all follow along with. Okay, and so then what about karma yoga? So what is karma yoga? And one of the yes, could well be, James. The crocodile, it is metaphorical for samsara. All of these stories, there is so much to them. It's they all lend themselves to a lot of metaphor, and they all lend themselves also to a lot of extrapolating and building upon, so that it never becomes boring. If you've listened to Swamini tell the 10th man story, it's always a little different. There's always a little twist, and you think, just when you're like lulled into this complacency, I know what's coming, and then suddenly, oh no, that didn't happen last time, wait a minute, this is different. So all of these stories, they all lend themselves perfectly to that. You can see that the compassion of the teaching, the compassion of Bhagavan coming through this, knowing that here, especially in Kali Yuga, we're not going to get this the first time round. We need to have this repeated over and over again. And these stories actually are ways, these are some of the best ways that we actually learn. We learn this knowledge because they do rumble around in our minds. We start being able to see different things in them. So it's it's a wonderful way to learn. So karma yoga. So as Puja Swamiji used to say, no sannyas, you cannot become a sannyasa without having led some sort of, had the attitude of a karma yogi throughout your life. And so, and you can see how long this process can be, because here we've got Arjuna, right? If we're talking about the Bhagavad Gita at the end of the day, so just come all the way back. What text were we studying? What were we talking about? Oh, Bhagavad Gita, that's right. Oh yeah, that Arjuna, Krishna, you remember those two? Yes, those two right there, okay? So Arjuna, he's been leading this life in the forest. He's been living in a forest for 12 years. And is he ready for sannyas? Bhagavan Krishna says, no, you're not ready for sannyas. And so even after 12 years of being in the forest, he's not ready for sannyas. It's not an easy place to get to. One doesn't grow easily out of these ragaddveshas. And what was the big thing for Arjuna? Why was he not ready for sannyas? What had he been doing in the forest for 12 years?
Planning his vengeance.
Planning his vengeance, learning all his tricks of the trade, his weaponry tricks, right? He'd been plotting and scheming all sorts of how he was going to do this and that. And that's why he had Bhagavan Krishna drive the chariot into the middle of the battlefield, in between. He wanted to see, it was like, this is my day. Finally, 12 years later, my day has come. And it's not to say that there was not attempts made, because there were attempts made to avoid this war. Several attempts were made to avoid it. I think 3 times Bhagavan Krishna was sent over to the other side to say, how about just getting this much land? How about getting this much land? And every time, so many peaceful, it was at least 3 times, and all turned down. So it's not like Arjuna just came roaring out of the forest, okay, we're going to do this right now. He still did make the attempts to, bring about peace, but he was ready, he was wired, until of course he saw everybody and then collapsed into the bottom of the chariot. Thankfully for our sakes, because now we have Bhagavad Gita to study, okay? So this life of a karma yogi, this life of preparation, getting prepared to the point where one can take that sannyas, it's not for everybody. And as Puja Swamiji says, the quickest route and the most surefire route is through living one's life with this attitude of karma yogi. If one leads a lifestyle of karma yoga, one will get there very quickly. And this is said also in the Bhagavad Gita. Puja Swamiji didn't make this up, okay? So this life of karma yoga is for neutralizing the raga dveshas. So you can imagine if one suddenly just pulls oneself out and sits down. This is the story Swamini told. I don't know if she told this one the other day. This is the story of the simply sitting Swami. So there was back in the day in India, when the British were, ruling the place, they would give out rations to all the people in the temple areas. And so the temple priest would get so many bags of rice, and then the cleaning people would get this many bags of rice, and then the ones who were doing the cooking would get this kind of life. And we'll come back to that Solvig, okay? And then there was this Swami who was sitting in the corner of the temple compound, and he just would sit there day in, day out. And so one day the overseer for the rations came around, and he checked in and he's looked and he said, okay, you're getting this, you're getting this, you're getting this. We have to cut back somewhere, and so you're all going to get half of the rations you've been getting. And these people are feeding their families off of this. So you're all going to get half. And they were like, oh, like this. And then he walked over to where the simply sitting Swami was, and he had his little checkboard, and he said, you're getting 2 bags of rice? 2 bags of rice for what? These people were only getting 1, and now they're only getting half. You are getting none. So he cut out the simply, what are you doing? You don't do anything, he said. And so, the simply sitting Swami just sat there, okay, no bags of rice, he's a Swami, he's going to live off of bhiksha. But the temple priest was absolutely in an uproar. What? He said, you can't do that to simply sitting Swami. Do you know how many years that simply sitting Swami has been there? And do you know how many people come and how many people get so much from simply sitting Swami, and they come just to be in his presence and to sit there? Do you know that? And then this fellow turns around and he says, you don't know what you're on about. And so the temple priest says, why don't you just go and sit over there with him? If you can go and sit over there with him for even a day, then okay, we'll feed him out of our half rations. And so this fellow says, oh, no problem, I'll come tomorrow, because, half the day's already gone today, so I'll come tomorrow and I'll sit with him and, we'll take care of all of this. So tomorrow comes, he comes in, he sees the Swami, and the Swami's already sitting there when this fellow arrives at 7 o'clock in the morning. And the Swami's already sitting there. The Swami doesn't say anything, but he does kind of look like this and looks up at the sun, as if to say, well, you seem to be a little late on this, but okay, we'll just go along with it. And so this fellow sits down, and he sits all up nice and straight, and back, you know, typical British, nice straight back, you know, stiff upper lip and everything. And he looks over, peers over at the Swami's hands, sees that they're sitting like this, you know, so puts his hands down like this, you know, and all very stiff, everything, you know, and eyes are swiveling from side to side like this. And he sits there for a few minutes, and then a fly comes and lands on his nose. Oh, God, Bennett, and he kind of, his eyes swivel over to the side. The Swami's got flies all around him. He's got one on the eye, one on the nose. He doesn't seem to be doing anything. He goes like this, and the fly flies off, but of course comes right back again and lands back on the nose. So finally he's waving his hand around like this, and the simply sitting Swami says, "Don't think you're supposed to move." And so, okay, he says. And so these flies keep coming. So finally he pulls out, he's British, okay? Pulls out a nice big white handkerchief, and he puts that over his face, and so that's drooping down over his face now. So now at least the flies can't get at him. So then he sits back up again straight, and his leg starts jumping around. Oh my God, what is this? I can't sit like this. God, how does his legs do this? Wow. And by this time, at least 10 minutes has gone past, okay? So he's sitting there, and his legs starting to quiver because the muscles aren't used to this style of sitting. And then, as if that's not bad enough, the bones in his backside are starting to really jab into the pavement. He looks over at simply sitting Swami. He must be sitting on something. Nope, sure enough, he's just sitting on the ground as hard as what he's sitting on. This isn't right, he says, I can't do this. And so he kind of starts to shrug his jacket off and roll it up, and simply sitting Swami says, I don't think you're supposed to be moving. And so anyway, he squiggles this under his backside, and he wriggles a bit, you know, okay, whew, that's better, you know, and he goes back to his sitting pose. Now 15 minutes have gone past, okay, so he's not doing very well as our poor inspector here. And so 15 minutes has gone past. The sweat is starting to trickle down the back of his neck. God, it must be time for a cup of tea, he says. Well, where's the people bringing the tea? He looks at Swami, he says, don't you get a cup of tea in the morning? And simply sitting Swami simply says, shh, you're supposed to be being quiet and being still. Big sigh comes out, you know. And by this time, there's quite a crowd of people gathered around to see this very strange sight sitting next to simply sitting Swami. They're used to coming and seeing simply sitting Swami, but today, instead of being all peaceful and quiet about it, they're all looking at him and they're peering at him, and some are commenting and some are going behind their hands. You know, what's going on with this fellow? What's he doing here? What's this sort of thing? A couple of people go and sit down next to simply sitting Swami, and the inspector, God, I don't think some of these people have taken baths, for crying out loud, and they come and sit next to him every day. God, this is terrible. And his handkerchief, meanwhile, is kind of, you know, breathing in and out, because don't forget he's got his hanky over his face. So after about 45 minutes, he stands up, this inspector stands up, and he shoos everybody off, and he marches across to the temple priest. 4 bags of rice for that simply sitting Swami, he says. So you see, this simply sitting is not an easy thing to do. So that's one of our nice stories that lends itself nicely to all sorts of extrapolations, okay? So the ability to sit quietly is not something easy. It's something we have to grow into. And it could be that the simply sitting Swami, not sipping Swami, simply sipping Swami? No, simply sitting Swami too had grown into that. It may be that at first he only did, you know, half a day, and then he grew slowly into doing a day. So this is to neutralize these ragadveshas, these desires to be comfortable, these desires for things around us to be a certain way. That is not, you know, our nose is not being assaulted by various smells, things not looking like that, flies not landing on our noses. To neutralize our ragadveshas, this life of karma yoga, this life of dedicating everything to Bhagavan, is very important. And then yesterday, I think we talked a little bit about this lifestyle of karma yoga. Let's just make sure that this is really clear. This lifestyle of karma yoga, karma yoga is, one has to be a mumukshu in order for one's life to be a life of, in order for there to be the attitude of karma yoga. And why is that? Because one is dedicating every action to Bhagavan. So if one is simply just all tied up in, in this doing and doesn't have any discrimination at all, then there is no karma yoga attitude, okay? So all of our mumukshus are seekers, but only some of them are karma yogis, and the others are just simply karmis, the ones who are doing. So tomorrow we are, I think, going to move on to our next verse, and tomorrow's Friday, and we'll talk a little bit. So this is the lifestyle of karma yoga and why one is going to follow, why one would start on this path of karma yoga. So we'll pick up there tomorrow. And meanwhile, you're all supposed to be practicing the chanting. If you were in chanting class last night, you're all supposed to be practicing the chanting that went on. And we will pick up tomorrow, and we will also see you at 6 o'clock tonight for Panchadashi, I believe, right? Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you. Yes, sitting quietly is a difficult thing. So, all right, no work tomorrow. Go, James. I'm happy for you. And we will see you all tonight and tomorrow, okay? Have a wonderful afternoon. Good. Glad to hear you're learning that Navaratna Stotram, the Dakshinamurti one. It's beautiful. Okay, Om. Please sitting Swami, he's so funny.